You'd think a royal title is for life, right? I mean, it's bestowed at birth. But for Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, well, his time in that role came to a very abrupt, very public end. So in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how a man born into so much privilege ended up a total royal outcast. And when the end came, man, it was swift, it was decisive. No more Your Royal Highness. All those military honors, gone. The dukedom, a title with so much prestige, stripped away. He's now just Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. And look, this wasn't some slow fade from the spotlight. Nope, this was a formal public erasure. So the big question is, how did we get here? I mean, how does a guy who was once at the very heart of the British monarchy, reportedly the Queen's favorite son, find himself basically in exile, a total pariah to his own family? Well, to get to the bottom of it, we have to rewind to one single, incredibly toxic friendship. And that friendship was, of course, with Jeffrey Epstein. His connection to the now-dead billionaire sex offender, that was the one thread that, once you started pulling on it, unraveled his entire royal life. It's a connection he tried so hard to explain away, and boy did he fail, sending him straight down a path of public disgrace. Now, at the absolute center of these allegations is one woman, Virginia Giuffre. Her story has been incredibly consistent. She says she was sex trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein to Prince Andrew on 3 different occasions, starting when she was only 17 years old. And it was her refusal to be silenced, her courage, that really forced this whole public reckoning. You know, a lot of the power of this scandal really comes down to this one single image. This photograph, supposedly taken by Epstein himself, became the visual proof, the anchor for the whole story. You can see it right there. Andrew with his arm around a teenage Virginia Giuffre, and in the background, Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. And Andrew's response to this? Total denial. He basically claimed to have amnesia, saying, "I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady." And that claim, that set the stage for everything that came next. Okay, so if that photo was the evidence, then his 2019 interview on BBC Newsnight was basically the confession. Not a confession of guilt, mind you, but a confession of just a catastrophic lack of judgment and zero credibility. He honestly thought this TV appearance would clear his name. Instead, it absolutely destroyed it. And it all started with a series of truly bizarre, unbelievable claims. Out of all the wild moments in that interview, this one really stood out. Andrew claimed he has this peculiar medical condition that means he doesn't sweat. But that flew directly in the face of Virginia Giuffre's very detailed memory of him sweating profusely while they were dancing. It was just such a specific, weird, and frankly easily questionable defense. It made everyone watching think, okay, if you're not telling the truth about something small like that, how can we possibly trust you on the big stuff? And then, oh boy, there was the alibi. To prove he wasn't at a London nightclub on the night in question, he gave this incredibly specific, almost comically mundane memory of taking his daughter to a party at a Pizza Express in Woking. But his explanation just opened up a whole new can of worms. Like, why is that specific memory so crystal clear? And more importantly, how does a party at 5 p.m. serve as an alibi for something that happened hours and hours later? It didn't add up, not at all. So that interview was a complete and utter PR disaster. But believe it or not, what came next was even worse. Because the problem was no longer just about his unbelievable claims on TV. Now, we were talking about hard evidence, stuff that directly contradicted his entire story. And then this email gets leaked. It's from Andrew to Jeffrey Epstein, and part of it reads, "It would seem we're in this together and we'll have to rise above it. We'll play some more soon." I mean, come on. That is not the language of a guy who's cut ties with someone. That sounds like an ongoing alliance, plain and simple. And this timeline just lays it all out so clearly. Look at this. In December 2010, he publicly says the friendship is over. Then, in March 2011, literally one day after that infamous photo gets published, he's privately emailing Epstein saying, "We're in this together." And then, fast forward to 2019, he gets on national television and repeats the 2010 story as if that email just never happened. He was caught red-handed in a lie. So, at this point, his credibility is completely shot. It's in tatters. And the focus starts to shift. Suddenly, this isn't just about Prince Andrew anymore. This is about the integrity and maybe even the survival of the monarchy itself. The royal family was now staring down a full-blown crisis, and it was one of their own making. And the public, well, they had definitely made up their minds. Just look at this. Polls showed that a staggering 63% of the British public wanted him stripped of his dukedom. That's not just some media chatter. That is a massive groundswell of real public anger. And the pressure on his brother, King Charles, became absolutely immense. Royal historians immediately started weighing in, trying to put this all into context, and they made it clear. This was not just another royal scandal. According to experts like Ed Owens, this crisis was right up there with the death of Princess Diana in '97 and even the abdication crisis back in 1936. We're talking about a truly foundational crisis for the House of Windsor. So, the king had to act, and his actions were severe. Bam! Andrew was stripped of his titles. Bam! He was evicted from his massive 30-room mansion. And bam! He was effectively banished, sent into internal exile at the Sandringham estate. The message was loud, clear, and very public. The monarchy was choosing its own survival over protecting one of its own. But just because they took away his titles doesn't mean the story is over. Not by a long shot. Because while the palace took action, there are still some huge legal and political questions just hanging out there, totally unanswered. The fallout is absolutely still continuing. And this is a key point. This is still very much an active situation. I mean, will he cooperate with the U.S. Congress's investigation into Epstein? Could he still face criminal charges for sexual trafficking? What about for misconduct during his time as a UK trade envoy? And could Parliament themselves step in and strip him of what little he has left? Like I said, this story is far, far from over. And you can bet that inside the palace, the feeling is crystal clear. King Charles and the next in line, Prince William, they reportedly see Andrew as a toxic figure, a direct threat to the future of the monarchy. And all this decisive action, it's really part of their bigger push to create a more modern, more accountable royal family, one that can actually survive in the 21st century. But you know, with all this talk of kings and princes and palaces, it's easy to lose sight of what's at the heart of this. This quote from Virginia Giuffre's family really brings it all back home. It reframes the whole thing, not as some royal drama, but as a story about a survivor's incredible courage, going up against one of the most powerful families on the planet. And that leaves us with one big final question to think about. Is the fall of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor just the story of one man's terrible, disastrous choices? Or does it represent something much bigger? Could this be a real turning point, a moment where an ancient institution was finally forced, by public pressure and the unbelievable bravery of a victim, to actually hold one of its own accountable?